Hey, new pack for City Skylines. I'm always happy when one of these comes along. Reminds me that this game exists and I like it. This is Park Life, the 6th expansion to Cities Skylines, coming at you for an asking price of $15 US. And as you might expect from the title, it adds parks full of life down amongst the skylines of your cities. More specifically, it introduces park districts, each of which can be customized according to 4 different themes: city parks, nature reserves, amusement parks, and zoos. This means that you're no longer limited to plopping buildings on the side of the road to appease citizens' entertainment requirements. Now you can just paint a district on top of any part of the map and claim it as a park. And yes, you can overlap park districts with the other more traditional ones, so all that empty space in between zones and structures can finally be filled up with something more useful. As long as your new park has an entryway, the area will attract citizens and tourists alike, and can even generate revenue if you decide to charge an entrance fee. And personally speaking, this is something I've wanted in Skylines ever since it first launched in 2015. Or at least it's a lot of what I've wanted, while still leaving a little bit to be desired, but we'll get to that in a bit. Overall, though, I'm quite happy with Park Life because, in my opinion, one of the biggest appeals of free-form city builders like this is the opportunity to create an aesthetically pleasing metropolis. And until now, anytime you built a city with fewer grids and more winding roads, it meant that you were left with a lot of unused space due to the limitations of the zoning grid. Sure, you could build pedestrian pathways and plot down a bunch of trees to cover things up without this pack, but that was about it. So the fact that Park Life allows you to designate those areas as a proper park that more fully appeases localized desires is just awesome. And to do this, you're provided hundreds of new assets with this pack to plop down just about anywhere you want. Placement restrictions have been lifted with these new pack items, so you're not limited to sticking them right up against roads or pathways for them to work, meaning that you can create much more believable parks, with stuff just kind of scattered around everywhere and people can explore as they wish. While you can mix and match the new assets any way you like, the 4 main park designations are logically split up to provide their own unique experiences. First up are city parks, and they're the most generic ones on offer, providing a basic but pleasant urban refuge, letting you provide your citizens with things like cafes, restaurants, gazebos, piers, food trucks, playgrounds, and giant trampolines. Nature reserves are more serene and woodsy, with a focus on camping, walking trails, cabins, viewing platforms, and lookout towers. And even when placed inside of a bustling center of commerce, nature reserves are all quiet and serene, and I find the dichotomy downright pleasant. Amusement parks are pretty self-explanatory, and these make Skylines feel more like a business management sim than ever, with carnival games, haunted houses, merry-go-rounds, roller coasters, and even mascots wandering the premises. Granted, you don't have nearly the amount of customization over little tiny details as you do in, say, Planet Coaster or Roller Coaster Tycoon, and you can't zoom in nearly as close as I would prefer to really get the details just right. Maybe that doesn't matter to everyone, but for me, I felt like I wanted to be closer. Same goes for the zoos, which come together a lot like amusement parks, but feature notably more flora and fauna. You get exhibits with all sorts of creatures, elephants and flamingos, giraffes, rhinos. Yeah, man, the Zoo Tycoon memories are flooding back and I am all for it. I'm also down with the new policies on offer, both for your city at large and those that apply to each individual park. So yeah, if you want one park to be heavily advertised and feature more pampered animals, you can do that. While another park might receive night tours and fireworks shows to keep the party going 24/7. Although be careful with those fireworks, since they'd not only last the entire night long and get old fast with their single repeating animation, but they're quite the fire hazard, it seems. And if you don't have firefighting helicopters, then that's unfortunate, since as it is now, fire trucks can't always reach inside the park to extinguish the flames, so my first park ended up a little bit more post-apocalyptic than I'd planned. On second thought, I meant for it to look like that. Now it's a theme park, problem solved. But whenever your parks aren't burning down, it's a good idea to make use of the new Park Maintenance City Service building. It's not exactly required, but it's nice to have. A lot like the road maintenance building, it'll send out vehicles that go around and improve efficiency and attractiveness. And to keep track of attractiveness and other such things, you can refer to the park menu. It gives you a nice little overview of all the stuff you've got going on in the city, how much people enjoy it, how much money it's making or losing, all sorts of good stuff. And this also ties into the tourism overhaul. with a new, more detailed user interface and a menu system that's also part of the free patch that launched alongside this pack. A very welcome addition that makes tourism make a bit more sense. Speaking of which, you can now create sightseeing tours as well, which works a lot like creating public transport and airship paths, except here you're controlling sightseeing buses and groups of tourists on foot. You just click around the map and plan out routes for tourists and vehicles to follow, and place stops in the form of points of interest, with the idea being that it will increase the appeal of any attractions at those stops. And you also get hot air balloon tours, and yeah, I find these far more visually appealing than blimps. So this is something I am definitely happy to have in the game without mods. However, all this extra stuff means that you're going to be faced with a lot more busy work, because with every single one of these park districts, it is an entirely freeform process to design them, and nothing populates automatically like with the other existing districts. So like if you placed an organic and local produce district on top of a commercial zone, it'll grow a bunch of buildings and props automatically that fit into the category from that point onwards. But with park districts, nothing shows up inside of it unless you specifically place it there. Every entrance, every path, every rock, tree, bench, every single building, and every single piece of decoration has to be placed one at a time. And don't get me wrong, this isn't necessarily a complaint, it's just more of an FYI. I myself love how involved park building is here, since I'm all about this kind of granular design and detail, and find myself getting lost in it for hours, trying to level up each park to the fullest. But I do also wish there was some form of automatic park generation, or at the very least a tool to fill in a park district with trees or terrain coverage. As an example, in the confusingly unrelated Cities series by Focus Home Interactive, I always appreciated this tool that lets you fill in an empty space with a single click. It's a quick and dirty way of creating parks, but it works in a pinch when you'd rather put your time into building something else. So having something similar would have been nice to have in Skylines Park Life. And also, while this pack does come with a ton of buildings, props, and other assets to place in your parks, I'm a bit irked at how you can't freely place any of the previous park buildings anywhere you want into park districts, in the same way you can the new ones. Things like basketball courts and bouncy castles would fit right into these new park districts, as would the new unique buildings like the old Market Street and this rather impressive castle. But nope, you're restricted to placing them roadside as always. And naturally, there's already a mod to make this happen, so whatever man, it's kind of a moot point I guess if you're willing to mod your game, but it still seems like it should be an option already. Again though, these aren't real major complaints, so much as they are things that I think you should be aware of if you want to buy this pack. As for whether or not I recommend buying it, well, $15 is what Park Life costs, and what it provides is not exactly necessary to the Skylines experience, so, make that buying calculation for yourself. As for me though, I still think this pack is awesome, and I'm glad to have it in the game. It just adds a bunch of things that I wanted, and I can't see myself playing without from this point forward. And even if you don't buy the pack, the free updates that launched alongside it have only made the game better, like the improvements to tourism, the build menu filters to help categorize things, the new cinematic camera option, the extensions to custom content creation, the ploppable terrain props and decorative items, and how trees now significantly reduce noise pollution. So yeah, Park Life. I like it a lot, and you might like it too, so check it out if you want. Either way though, I hope that you enjoyed this brief look at the pack. I always enjoy covering Skylines whenever a new thing comes along, and beyond that I talk about all sorts of things every Monday and Friday right here in LGR. So stick around if you'd like. And as always, thank you very much for watching.